All right, hello everybody. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. I am super excited tonight to be talking to Brittney Slayes of Unleash the Archers, one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite vocalists. Follow-up interview, actually interviewed her a couple of years ago on the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise. Got my shirt on, which was awesome. So yeah, wanted to do a follow-up interview. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. So thank you so much for joining me, Brittney. Really excited to be chatting with you tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Excellent, thank you. I was going to start off talking about the latest album, but you guys have some pretty exciting news in terms of the Juno Awards. So that you just announced, or you just posted on your page. So I thought I would ask you about that. What can you tell us about? And that's I think on Friday, correct?
It is, yeah. Well, it's kind of two nights. They're doing it differently this year because normally they do it in one big, event, and they do all the, the pity awards at the beginning of the night when the superstars are still walking the red carpet. But there's not really a point of doing that when you can't go to an actual venue or anything like that. So what they're doing is they're calling it the Opening Night Awards, and that's going to be Friday night, and it's being streamed on the CBC Music website, I guess, and their app. They have an app as well. And then so they're going to do the bulk of the awards that night. And I think they're just going to kind of rip through them, and they've got 3 or 4 guest performances. And then Sunday night is going to be like the big night when they announce all the pop album of the year and R&B album of the year, and then Bieber and Feist and The Weeknd and all that big name action is going to happen on like the actual Juno Awards on Sunday. So we're going to get announced on the Friday. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be really fun. For those of you that might not know, the Junos are the Canadian version of the Grammy Awards, but unlike the Grammys, they only award Canadian artists. Except I think there might be like an international category, and I think they probably let others in on that one, but you have to be Canadian in order to win. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting.
That's very cool. Congratulations. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
That's very exciting. Yeah, I love it. That's cool.
It is much smaller than the Grammys, though. I will say. I mean, it's still very Canadian.
Right.
No one really knows about them outside of Canada, and it's not like it's gonna garner us any crazy world media attention or anything like that. It's just such an honor to be recognized within your own community, and to kind of get recognition from musicians in your own country, and say, hey, you made something that matters.
Right. I think well, at least one of the first times I became aware of the Juno Awards was, I think, when Rush, one of the times Rush won an award, and I'm a big Rush fan, and it may have been the time that Alex got up and read a grocery list as his speech, just read through his, and then I think another time he just said blah blah blah, and that's all he said the entire time, which I thought was pretty hysterical. So,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, very Alex like.
Oh, well, we definitely have a speech planned if we win. I mean, I don't think that we will. We're up against some real legends, so it's tough competition, but definitely will take the time to thank people and not read my grocery list.
Well, and I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I would say if I don't know who you're up against, but in terms of this incredible album, I would definitely say that should win, because it's phenomenal. It's fantastic. And the last time that we spoke, when I interviewed you, I guess it wasn't the last time we spoke. The last time I interviewed you was, as I said earlier, on the ship, 70,000 Tons of Metal. And that was not too long after Apex had come out, and we had chatted about it, and you were just in the starting process of writing Abyss. I think you had, my memory serves me, I think you had basically kind of laid out the story, but you hadn't started lyrics. You just barely started music. And then of course this amazing album came out. which I love it. I think it's great, and I think it's a great continuation of the Immortal story, which is very cool, very interesting. And I think too, maybe this is overblown, but I think it feels very like an amalgamation of both albums. Kind of feel like, yeah, this of all of the history of Unleash the Archers, but then beyond that. In a lot of ways. I think it's fantastic. It's really, really cool. It's a really brilliant idea. And I mean, when I heard, the opening track, but Legacy, man,
that's one of my favorites too.
That song just rips. The vocals, your vocals are amazing. The guitar work is incredible. I think in my opinion, my humble opinion, some of the best guitar work on any Unleash the Archers album is that song. Every time I hear it, it just kind of blows my mind. And it's a very upbeat album, which is cool, even though it's dealing with some dark elements and good versus evil, but it's much, I don't know if I'd say much more upbeat than other albums and other songs of yours, but it has a very upbeat vibe to it, which is cool.
Yeah, Apex was definitely meant to be the darker record, and Abyss was the lighter sort of, light at the end of the tunnel kind of a record when it comes to the story. And that's really funny because it's pretty much the opposite of the names.
Yeah, I just had to say
Apex. Yeah. But it just kind of worked out that way, that Apex was this descent into hopelessness that the main character was experiencing. And then Abyss was him awakening, just like at the beginning of Apex, but feeling very different about it and knowing that something was changed. And so he has a new master, and this master treats him as an equal and is like, we're going to defeat this thing that you've been up against for so long, and I'm going to set you free. And it was a very different direction, where the Immortal is on this downward spiral of despair in Apex, and it ends with him still feeling like, okay, this is the way my life is, but it's really kind of settling, as opposed to Abyss, where it's just this kind of like constant ascending into sunshine and happiness and fulfillment. And it's kind of like just about us, every person out there's journey in life, really, how you come up against these horrible obstacles and you beat yourself up so much, and you think that you can't do it, and you convince yourself that you don't have the strength to do what it is that you need to do, whether it's follow your dreams or go for that killer promotion or whatever it may be. And then Abyss is very much about finding the strength within yourself to do everything that you always wanted to do, and having the faith in yourself that you can do it. So
very cool. When you went into, obviously lyrically, in the storyline, you have this idea that there would be this kind of I don't know if redemption is the right word for it, but where the Immortal is going. But in terms of the music, did you have an idea as well? Did the band have an idea as well? Like, okay, we want to do something more upbeat, more uplifting musically. And you explore some new ground, I think, in terms of UTA with there's some elements of almost pop music on there to some degree. There's symphonic metal. Things
definitely
that you haven't always done, or you've touched on a little bit, but it's much more pronounced in this album, which I think is very cool and very interesting. It's for lack of a better term, and this is going to sound insanely cliche, it's epic. It really is. It's an epic album. I tell everybody, like, you have to listen to this album. If you've never listened to Unleash the Archers, you have to check this out. And you really should start with Apex, because I'm an album guy. I think that's why I love both these albums so much. I'm not a
absolutely
guy,
I agree.
I'm an old guy. I listen to albums. I buy albums. I buy vinyl, as you saw. And when I listen to an album, I listen to an album. I don't just listen to songs. So for me, this is perfection, because it's this cool storyline. It's this big epic piece, two epic albums, and I do. It's funny. We talked a little bit, or mentioned Matt Magaki earlier of Cryptopsy, and he and I were actually talking last week about this album and how he can't stop listening to it. He can't put it down. He listens to it constantly, and he says, he just puts it on repeat. And I'm like, yeah, but you gotta include Apex, or you missed the first part of the story. So I listened to all, both, then put it on repeat. Like, oh, I should do that too.
Yeah, no, it's I definitely agree with you. I tell people to listen to Apex through Abyss for sure. I think that but I mean, not everyone listens to lyrics. I'm a vocalist,
True.
so I very much listen to lyrics, and so I'm constantly listening to what a song is about. I'm not just listening to the song, and it's a lot of times that will be like what kind of makes me or puts me off on a record or a song or a band, because I'm listening to the words and I'll be like, do you know what they're singing about? Like, oh, I can't listen to this. And
Right.
Scott will be like, what you're hearing the lyrics right now?
Right.
And I'm like, what? Yes, they're very, very important. But in terms of this record was always written with the whole story and the feeling underneath it in mind at all times. And I always wanted Apex to be this dark kind of descending record, and then I wanted Abyss to be light and airy. And we were all really into synth and basically synthwave, retrowave, anything really that kind of has that throwback feeling to it. And we were listening to a lot of like Perturbator and Carpenter Brut and Magic Sword and LeBrock, and like, I mean, just insert synthwave bands here, and we've listened to them. And so we said, well, why don't we put synth on this record? And that way it kind of has this underlying happiness to it a little bit. Even in songs like Legacy that are, kind of darker, there's still that constant can't remember what it's called. It's just like up and down the scale on the synth the whole time. And like, you don't even really know it's there, but it's adding this kind of underlying sense of pop almost to the whole record. So we were really having a good time experimenting with that, but we never wanted it to be the forefront. When we announced the album, we said explicitly right in there, we're putting synth on every song, just so you know, so people don't get don't listen to this first track. Yeah, exactly. Don't listen to this first track and be like, oh dear God, because it's going to be on every song, but it's really going to be just another part of it. It's not going to be what it's all about. It's just another tool to add feeling and emotion and tone to the record, because it's so important that you feel the story as much as you hear it in the lyrics. So that was kind of where that whole thing came from. And just like, we were just so crazy influenced by synthwave that we kind of were like, let's write a synthwave record. And then we couldn't, of course, because we're metalheads through and through. So it was very much a metal record with a lot of synth on it. But that's why we did the bonus track, Abyss Wave, which is Abyss done as a synthwave song. But that was only available for people that got the earbook. So we're working on trying to get that released as its own, maybe digitally or something like that, so that everyone can hear it. But that was kind of just, we laid our cards on the table with that track for sure.
Is this the last we'll see of the Immortal, or is there a continuing story?
I don't know. Yeah. I left it kind of open for options.
Yeah. Well, that's what I loved about that last track, is the fact that there's still conflict with, he's free, mm-hmm. He has all this power, and he's kind of debating, like, do I use this power to enslave or do good or whatever, which is it's a cool idea. So I was curious if there might be something else eventually.
There could be. I haven't had time to work on it because I'm finishing the D&D campaign that we're doing. Should be doing that. We're going to stream like a whole D&D thing based around Abyss. So
Oh,
I'm just finishing that off so that we can do that this month. But then I'm working on a graphic novel for the Apex and Abyss story.
awesome. Yeah, I was
So
gonna ask you about that. I think I
yeah,
heard an interview quite a long time ago. I think when the album was originally released, I think somebody had interviewed you and you'd mentioned that you had an idea of doing a graphic novel, which is a great idea.
yeah. So could be that I put a little bit extra in there or something afterwards to maybe just, inch the story along a little bit, something like that. Give people something a little bit more. But musically, I'm not too sure. I mean, there is the chance possibly in the future, but right now I'm kind of like, okay, let's do something else. Let's do something different, because I've been living the Immortal saga for the last 5 years, I think, pretty
Yeah.
much. So maybe even longer. um, so I'm just like, okay, on to new things.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Have you been writing music? Or tossing around ideas at all? Or
Not quite yet. I mean, we're sort of starting to poke around a little bit. I had an idea for an EP that I was like, ooh, this is cool. And then I had another idea and I was like, ooh, let's do this instead. And then now I'm just I'm trying to focus, So basically when we're all ready to sit down and do it, I think that's when we'll be like, oh, okay, what's next?
Cool.
But right now we're still just kind of, dealing with the fallout of Abyss.
Right.
Still.
Well, and that's the thing is you didn't get a tour the album yet. You haven't been able to tour because of the obvious reason with the pandemic.
Yep.
In fact, the very last live show I ever saw was Unleash the Archers with Visions of Atlantis. You were supporting Dragon Force, and that was, of course, that tour was canceled. And I think you played maybe a song. I'm trying to remember. You may have played a song from Abyss.
We played one like teaser.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I think I remember you saying this is a new track, Michael. What? and I think you also played, if my memory serves me correctly, I think you played both the tracks from the Explorer EP as well, or at least one of them.
We played Northwest Passage.
No,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, which was awesome. And I see got that poster behind you, which is great. With the
turn this light on, maybe you can see it better. No, that did nothing. Never mind.
Yeah. I have the same problem with
it's like shining in that general direction, so I thought maybe it would help. So.
Yeah, I'll mess around just because I'm in a basement. My studio is in a basement, and the lighting's weird down here, and I'll play around with the lighting and try to figure out things for interviews. And I'll click the HD. I'm like, oh no, nobody wants to see that.
No, don't do that.
So let's turn that off.
Yeah. The Junos gave us a little nominee gift box thing, and there was a little clip light that you put on, like it's supposed to go like around your webcam that's on your laptop or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a little round LED lights thing, and it was so bad. It was so bright, bright. And it was like, I think it was probably 6,000K, something like that. So
wow.
It was like whitish blue light instead of kind of, the warmer toned, like nice softened light that you want. It was just like, bah. So I'm like, okay, not using that. Thanks, guys.
Looks like interviews with the undead or something like that.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. It was just so like white and white. It's like, I'm pale enough as it is. Maybe it'll work for someone else. I don't know. I shouldn't. It was a lovely gift box. Thank you, Juno. We very much appreciate all the gifts that were.
You mentioned just a minute ago some ideas with the EP, and of course, we just mentioned the Explorers EP. Just out of curiosity, with the EP, with the ideas. So Explorers, for those that don't have it, it's such a great EP. 2 covers, and you guys haven't done a lot of covers, so I'm curious if there are ideas of doing other covers in the future.
Oh man. Well, we are the worst for covers. This is why we don't do them, because we can never agree on anything.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, Northwest Passage was like the one that we all agreed on. And we were like, yes, we are covering this song. This is an Unleash the Archers song through and through. But other than that, it's been a battle the whole time because everyone wants to do something different. And it's just, yeah, it's difficult to all agree on something. So, I mean, we always have ideas and we throw them out there, and then one person's like, no, and then it just doesn't get done. So yeah, maybe we'll do some more. I mean, we always do one for like the Japanese bonus track. So
Oh, cool.
I managed to convince the boys to do Queen of the Reich on Apex because I was just like, that's so perfect for this album
Yeah.
being the introduction to the matriarch. So I was like, come on. And then they were cool with that. And then I convinced them to do Heartless World as the other track on the EP for Explorers. So that that took a little bit more elbowing on my part than Queen of the Reich did. And then we did, what was it? Sunglasses at Night
Oh, yeah.
on which is a Canadian song as well, a Canadian artist, on Abyss because it had that kind of synthy vibe that
Right.
that the rest of the record had, and because it was Corey Hart and it's a freaking rad song. And I don't know, just kind of imagine like the immortal flying through space, like with his shades on, like the future. He's like so excited about what, you know, what's to come, and he's like
Right.
jamming Corey Hart on the space radio. I don't know.
I like it. I like it. Well, if it ever becomes a movie, you should, yeah, hit up Corey Hart to play the role of the immortal.
Oh man, can you imagine how much money it would cost us to use the song, let alone to have him in there? Oh, man,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
expensive.
probably.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Royalties.
So, and maybe this is too early at this point. Do you have any touring plans currently? Is anything in the works? Because
Oh yes.
I definitely have to see this album live. So,
We had huge plans for last fall, which was of course going to be, you know, the in support of Abyss. Right after we were supposed to hit the road right after the record came out. And we had like Europe and North America and South America and Australia and Japan. And we were even working on India. That it was going to be such a rad time. And then of course we all know what happened. Everything got shut down. So we rescheduled Europe and North America for spring of 2021. And then that was like not happening. So then we rescheduled again, and we've announced the Europe dates, which are in December, late November, and then most of December. So those are looking like they will go forward, we think. The European Union basically is working on this thing where it's like a vaccine passport.
oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so it proves that you've had both doses of the vaccine, that you've never tested positive for COVID, and if a certain country requires it, before you go to it, you'll have to get a negative COVID test. So probably what we'll do is we'll get a test before we fly, and then make sure that we have all of the boxes ticked on our little coronavirus passport.
Nice.
And then hopefully be able to hit all those dates. There may be some countries that still aren't, you know, safe enough to have like large social gatherings, and we might just have to skip those dates or replace them. But so far it's looking like Europe might happen. And then we have US dates booked and ready to rock, and we're just kind of on the cusp of announcing them. We're just literally waiting for news of when the Canadian border will open, when we'll be allowed to travel safely into the States without it being, you know, having to prove that it's essential. Because I don't think that will, I don't care how good I am at talking, I would never be able to convince a border guard that a tour in support of our record is essential. I mean, it is. Like, can we please go back to work now? But yeah, it wouldn't happen. So that's kind of what it's waiting on right now, and it's looking good. So that's probably going to be this fall as well.
Right.
But everything else is in the toilet, unfortunately.
Do you have, and I don't know if you can mention this at this point, maybe it's too early, but do you have bands you're going to be playing with? That is that something you can talk about, or not yet, or not yet? Okay.
Well, Europe was announced. We're gonna do the tour with Stryker, who
Oh
we
yeah.
toured the US with back in 2018. Love those boys, fellow Canadians. And Northtail, which is a power metal band that's kind of they got members from everywhere. And they're super rad, and they kind of got a combo UTA Stryker vibe. So they're not too well known, but we know the some of the members, and they're kind of like a bit of a super group, I think, from your past European projects. So I think it's going to be a really good time. And then the US tour is going to be a really good time because we're going to be doing it with some old friends of ours and some new friends, hopefully, too.
Very cool. Very cool. I will keep an eye out, and everybody should keep an eye out for those tour dates. That will be good to get back into live shows. It's been too long.
Yes.
You know.
Oh my goodness, I can't even.
So another big announcement you guys have, and this is super cool, and of course, rolls right up in my world in terms of beer and heavy metal. So, cheers.
Cheers.
So you did it. Yeah, Unleash the Archers just did a collaboration. Well, it hasn't been released yet, but you've done a collaboration with Cannery Brewing. This was set up through the Vox&Hops podcast. Matt Magaki of Cryptopsy kind of did this. It's a big. Sorry, I'll let you talk about it. Very cool. It's very exciting.
Yeah. So, Matt, he loves his beers, and so he's got his Vox&Hops podcast, and he's also doing this thing called Brewtal North America, where he pairs metal bands up with breweries, and they do like a custom exclusive beer. And it's going to be like a collection. So every single beer will have the special Brewtal North America label, and then it'll say the band and the brewery, and then what kind of beer that they're doing. And so what we are doing with Cannery, this technically hasn't been announced yet, but I'm sure it'll be out there pretty quickly. We're doing a wheat hopped Pilsner with like these super dry French hops. And we thought it was cool that it's wheat hopped. So we're calling it the North Wheat Pilsner and kind of like a Northwest Passage.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty, we're idiots. So
no, that's cool.
We're really excited. It actually just got canned. So we're not allowed to travel in our province right now, which is super unfortunate. Originally, the plan was going to be for us to go up there and be there when it got canned so that we could taste it for the first time. But what they're going to do is they're going to courier down a 6-pack, and we're going to have a little taste test in our jam spot in a week or so here. Nice. And I can't wait, honestly. Super excited. I love like wheat ales. I'm a really big fan, and anything kind of fruity or whatever. So I think it's going to be pretty tasty. I can't wait. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to have so much kind of push behind it because it's all these bands all over Canada and the US, and a lot of we know a lot of them that are doing this, like Cryptopsy is doing one, and Augury and Stryker and Battlecross, and what's another one that I recognized? The Agonist. And like there was just a ton. It was a ton in the little press release thingy that we did the other day. So it's going to be a really good time. Yeah, can't wait to try everyone's beer. Yeah,
it's really exciting. I think Matt said there are 22, 23 collaborations.
Yeah, something like that.
Somewhere in that area. That's what's really cool. And obviously it's somewhat limited release, so it might be a little tricky getting a hold of some of this stuff, especially with US versus in Canada with the border closed. It might be a little tricky to get anything across the border, but there's plenty of bands from both sides, a lot of cool stuff across the country. I really wish I could get yours somehow. I don't know how.
I know we were talking can we just like fly with a huge bag of beers and then like have it like a little tasting station on the tour or something like that, you know, like I don't even know.
Yes, well,
We'll figure it out.
well, of course, I live in Utah, which has, totally wacko liquor laws. So, because I remember it was a couple of years ago, King Diamond did a beer and he was on the tours. I think people that got VIP tickets would get a free beer, get the beer, the can, except in Utah because it's illegal to bring beer across the border without it getting taxed. So they just put the nix on that, which is very frustrating, but
That's
anyway.
too bad.
So I've never had that.
Oh.
If anybody out there can find that beer and wants to send it to yours truly, get in touch with me.
Save me one.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely love to try a UTA beer. That would be great.
I'll see if we can bring some.
Yeah, there you go. I'll keep it quiet. I won't say anything.
Well, if it's in the tour bus, they're not gonna check, are they?
Right. Anything else going on with you? I know you've done some collaborations, a few collaborations as of late, over this past year, which is cool, but it's also got to be, I would imagine, a little, maybe it's not, it seems like it'd be kind of odd because you're not in a studio, not being able to go and perform with, the people you're doing work with. It's, basically, all MP3 type stuff, I'm assuming, or, you're sending files back and forth.
Lots of that. Lots of just put up a green screen and move around in front of it for music videos and that kind of thing and see what you can do. Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff. So no, it's been really, yeah, like normally I try to limit myself to only doing a couple a year, but this year just happened to be like when people that I promised collabs to, like a year ago or a couple years ago, that kind of thing, it all just kind of came all at once. So there'll be 4 tracks, I think, that come out in total this year that I will be featured on. Maybe even 5 if the last one that I'm doing gets done before the end of the year. I'm not sure the timeline on that one. So, but all friends, that I'm like super stoked to work with, except for Timo. I didn't really know beforehand, but I worked with others in the project previously, so that was kind of how I got hooked up with that. But yeah, it's all just like, hey Britt, like let's do this thing, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then it was just like, oh my god, I've signed on to do way too many projects. Like, I'm losing my mind. But it's been a lot of fun, and like I'm still super stoked at all the stuff that's coming out. Planeswalker has already been announced, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm basically like playing a Magic the Gathering character, and we're doing a whole music video for it, and that's gonna be really rad. And then the other one I can't talk about yet, and then the other one I can't talk about yet, but they'll be out there in the world soon. So yeah, lots going on. Despite there being nothing Unleash the Archers related, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's really exciting news. So, obviously at this point, I'm just, judging for those announcements on the tours, especially where I am here in the States. Can't wait to hear. Really excited to find out who you're going to be playing with, when that's happening. Hopefully that's very soon, as things are starting to get better and starting to open up.
Yeah, you guys are killing it down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, kinda. Like it's opening up and everyone, but more and more people are getting COVID again. It's kind of
it kind of depends on where you live and your unfortunately your views on things, but we won't get into that.
Yes, no, we could talk all night long if we did that.
That could be scary. So that's very exciting news. As I said earlier, I cannot wait to see this wonderful album live, and I'm really hoping
to play it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. It's so great.
We've already been discussing like what songs to play, and it's kind of like, well, we can't not play this one. Well, what about this one? Like, well, come on, then we can't play this one, and it's like, oh no, well, we got a 3-hour set ahead of us here. Everyone be ready to we're just having so much trouble deciding what to play, so might have to do a poll or something on Facebook or something.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's a good idea. In my opinion, play the entire album, but they play the entire story.
Everything else?
Play the entire story.
Yeah, right. That would be really cool.
I mean, your vocal pipes you can handle it, right? The 3 hours singing.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
Well, this has been great. I always end my interviews with the same question. You know, what beer and what album are you pairing? What if you could do a pairing right now, what album would that be, and what beer are you drinking?
Definitely Fortitude from Gojira. I'm rocking that one really hard.
Nice.
And I have been drinking pretty much any sour under the sun.
Oh, cool.
If it's on special at the beer store, I will drink it. But I've really been enjoying the apricot octopus from Parallel 49, which is a apricot sour.
Nice. And that's a local brewery there where you
Yes.
are, right? Cool. Very cool.
Yes.
Very, very, very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me this evening. This has been a pleasure. As always, it's always fun to talk to you. Love your music. Cannot wait for more to come. And yeah, I see a lot of cool stuff in the future of Unleash the Archers, which I'm excited to check out. So thank you so much, Brittney.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.